I added over 40 new fragrance launches to my collection in 2022, and I tried dozens of others that didn't make the cut. My goal is to help you curate the ultimate fragrance wardrobe with only the best perfumes and nothing less. So today I am sharing what I consider to be the best and worst fragrance launches of 2022. Hey beauties, welcome back to my channel. I have been looking forward to filming this video. I'm so excited. It's nice to do an annual recap and just look back over the last year at all of the fragrances that were launched in 2022 and just kind of compare them. They're all very different. We have a huge variety back here. 41 fragrances on the vanity behind me. And as I was looking over all of the fragrances and kind of pulling everything from my shelf, I got to thinking that I might do a separate video. If you're interested, let me know. A separate video on all of the best fragrance discoveries of 2022, because I added some incredible fragrances to my collection last year, but they weren't necessarily new launches, just new discoveries for me. So we aren't going to be talking about those fragrances today. But if that sounds like something that would be interesting to you, let me know down below in the comments section. Starting strong with one of the best new launches and one of my current favorite fragrances. This is La Perla Luminous Eau de Parfum. And these are in no particular order. I did not even attempt to rank them. This video would have never been created, but this was a love at first sniff for me. This is definitely my personal fragrance style, and it's a fragrance that I've worn so much lately. It's a beautiful, very dreamy, kind of warm, sensual, woody fragrance. Keynotes include ambrette, musk, jasmine sambac, sandalwood, and cedar. I know by the end of 2023, this fragrance is going to have a huge dent in it because it's so wearable, it's so versatile, and it's just an easy grab. I wore this out to brunch just the other day. It's so smooth and elegant. It reminds me of a woodland fairy fragrance. It is woody, but don't be fooled. This is incredibly feminine. An unexpected favorite is this Lancôme Idole flanker, Idole Nectar. Keynotes include rose vanilla and salted caramel popcorn, which gives it such a luscious, delicious, kind of mouth-watering quality. It's sweet, it's a little bit floral, it's very addicting. I love the dry down of this fragrance. And the longevity is really impressive as well. It's very flirty. I think this would be perfect for a date night or even a girls' night out. This is a relatively new addition to my collection, but I believe it launched early 2022, and it is definitely one of the best fragrances that I've smelled. This is from Bella Ora and Fumi Monet. This is Exalté. It also has rose and vanilla, so I would put this in maybe the same category as Idole Nectar. Not quite as candy sweet, and there's a little bit more depth and complexity to this fragrance. Smells a little bit more artisanal. Very fancy is the best word to describe this. A very perfumey perfume. The influencer fragrance launches this year have blown me away. I think Fumi did an incredible job with this. Exalté is worth the hype. Both of the new Kayali launches from 2022 were incredible, both Love Fest Burning Cherry 48 and the Vanilla Royale Sugared Patchouli 64. There was a lot of excitement when Love Fest first launched because I think at the time there weren't a lot of cherry fragrances. There were, of course, to be expected, a lot of comparisons to Tom Ford Lost Cherry. I think the fragrances are very different. Lost Cherry is one of my all-time favorites. Burning Cherry is a little bit earthier. It's just not as sweet, not as vanilla dry down, but still very beautiful. This blew me away. I don't want to say I didn't have high expectations because that's not really fair. I really love Kayali fragrances, so yes, I always expect them to be amazing. But I think Vanilla 28 is kind of that perfect go-to vanilla. I didn't realize that they could outdo themselves, and I really think they did. This is so decadent, so luxurious to the next level that it doesn't need anything else. I found it to be very long wearing and a lot of projection with this fragrance. It's beast mode. This has to be one of the most polarizing, if not the most polarizing fragrances I've ever reviewed on my channel, and I think technically it launched in 2021, but it sold out really quickly and then it kind of disappeared, but it launched for the first time in Sephora in 2022. So that's why I cheated and I included it on the list. This is Fenty Eau de Parfum. We all know fragrance is very personal, but when I smell this fragrance, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. I think it smells really amazing. And I remember hearing some mixed reviews. Some people really love this. Some people do not like it at all. But when you ask them why they don't like it or why they do like it, they will describe a totally different fragrance to you. It is the strangest thing. I swear it's as if we are all smelling a totally different fragrance. To me, it smells very edible. It's very chocolatey, but I really like it. I think it's very sexy, and I've received so many compliments whenever I wear this fragrance out. So I like it. I understand that, fragrance is different. Some people aren't going to like it, but the really extreme dislike I've heard from some people really surprised me. I believe this launched pretty early last spring. This is Creed Windflowers, a very warm, sensual floral fragrance. This is so pretty, and it's very different from the other Creed fragrances, in my opinion. I remember they had a big launch party in Miami, and there were so many local influencers who attended. And ever since, anytime I attend an event in Miami, almost everybody is wearing Creed Windflowers, so I find myself smelling this so much out in the wild. And I don't mind, because to me this smells so lovely. I have 3 Floris London fragrances on my best of the best list. The third we're going to talk about in a little bit. So I'm starting with these 2. This is Platinum 22, which was launched for the Platinum Jubilee, named after the Platinum Jubilee in 2022, and then Mulberry Fig. This was my first introduction to the brand, and prior to this, I had never even heard of Floris London, and I went on to have an incredible brand trip to London with them, and I got to learn all about their fragrances. It was a pretty small influencer slash press trip, and I think that does make a difference because it was so intimate that we actually got to learn a lot about the stories behind the fragrances, the history and the heritage of the brand. So it gives you more of a deeper appreciation, and these were sent to me complimentary. I did travel to London with Floris, and I say that out of sheer transparency because I never know who's tuning in for the first time or who's watched my channel for a long time. Floris London has created a fragrance for all of the Jubilees. So for a Platinum Jubilee, I think it's the only time that's ever happened. This was going to be a huge launch for the brand. It had to be an incredibly special fragrance, and I think they nailed it. It's very warm, a slight gourmand touch, but it was inspired by all of the flowers and all of the, plants and foliage in the Queen's Garden. So I think it has a beautiful story. They really captured a regalness in this fragrance. It's a little bit cool, minty, very natural. It smells like you are just walking through the Windsor Gardens. Very elegant, unisex, but a little bit sweet. I would actually say this leans a little bit more feminine. This is such a pretty fragrance for a black tie occasion, something really special. This leans more fall-winter in my opinion, whereas Mulberry Fig, this is Miami in a bottle. It's so chic and elegant. It reminds me of a lot of the hotel lobbies down on South Beach of the really nice fancy hotels. I love fig. It has a little creamy sweetness. It also has coconut, so it's just a perfect combination. Next, we have a designer trifecta, and I'm talking about all 3 of these at the same time because they have similar qualities. They're very intense jasmine heavy. I think all 3 of them are incredible. I would say they're all amazing, but if I were curating the ideal fragrance wardrobe, I would choose one. Whichever is your favorite, go with that one and then leave the others behind because there's just not enough variety. Prada Paradox comes in one of the coolest, chicest fragrance bottles I've ever seen. This is made for social media. It's so cute. This is a little bit more cool casual. I would say this is more of a daytime fragrance, but very versatile. I mean, you could wear it in the evenings. Signature scent worthy. I love that one. Whereas YSL Libre Le Parfum is a bit more ambery. This is more intense, a more intense jasmine. This leans very evening, fall, winter. And then Alien Goddess Intense, very similar. A little coconut, not quite as much coconut as the original Alien Goddess, but very jasmine. I would say these 2 are probably the closest. The YSL Libre is a little bit more intense caramel, vanilla, warm ooey gooiness. Beautiful for black tie. I'm so glad that I finally found a Libre interpretation that I really love because the bottle is so cool. And then these 2, I think you could choose one. All 3 are really nice. I mean, that's the thing about designer fragrances. They may not knock your socks off and be the most unique thing you've ever smelled, but they have mass appeal. They are created to work for almost everybody, so chances are high you're going to like them. I have more designer fragrances here that I loved. Paris Paris from Chanel. I had such high expectations and I was so happy that I loved it as much as I do. It has patchouli, rose, I think lemon or bergamot in there. It's a little zippy citrus note. It smells a little bit like the daytime version of Coco Noir. So similar-ish. I really think this fragrance was geared to attract a younger audience, maybe attract Gen Z, some younger millennials, get them interested in Chanel fragrance. It still has the Chanel DNA, smells very Chanel, but incredibly modern at the same time. It reminds me of a beautiful spring day strolling through Paris. I've never been to Paris, but that's what I imagine. It's what comes to mind. And then from Dior, we have Miss Dior Rose Essence. As a rose lover, a rose water lover, this fragrance is so beautiful, but it is light. This is very much a skin scent. Even Paris Paris, this is an eau de toilette concentration, but this is even lighter, if that's possible. But I think for a sweet floral rose lover, this could be a beautiful everyday fragrance. You're clean out of the shower, maybe your bedtime perfume. So it's not going to knock your socks off, but if you love Miss Dior, you will love this. It's so special. Speaking of rose, we have the Tom Ford Rose Garden collection. 3 new rose fragrances. Rose Prick is another one of my favorite Tom Fords. So here we have Rose d'Amalfi. This was my favorite of the 3. And then I also have Rose de Chine and Rose de Russie. Rose d'Amalfi is, wouldn't even say this is polarizing because it's not like you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. It's just not for everybody because it's very powdery. It's a very powdery, rosy almond, which I personally really like, and I really like the dry down of this fragrance. It's beautiful for spring, summertime. I don't think it has mass appeal. I don't think a lot of people are going to love this. I've heard a lot of people say they hate this fragrance or they were really disappointed by it. If you love powdery almond rose, try it. Otherwise, steer clear, it's not going to be for you. So for me, this is one of the best launches, and it was definitely the best of the trio. It's been a while since I've tried Rose de Chine, so I'm going to go ahead and spritz it again. I remember liking it, but it wasn't a love for me. I kind of thought this would probably end up on my husband's vanity instead. It's nice. It's kind of spicy rose, kind of middle of the road. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. I like it. There's just something missing for me. Now I remember. It's not quite perfect. I could wear this as long as I layered it with something else, but it's not going to be one of the first fragrances I grab. I would say that is kind of a middle of the road. It's not a bad fragrance, and I certainly would wear it with something else. Rose de Russie, I would consider one of the worst fragrance launches of 2022. Only for you guys. I love you this much. I'm going to smell this again because I despise it. Yeah, no, it's terrible. No, this fragrance gives me a terrible reaction instantly. I knew the first time I smelled this, no. It was a very harsh no. Okay. I don't know why I keep smelling it. It smells like dirt. It smells like rocks, dirt, straight from the earth. It's very natural in that way, but it's not even like a yummy, smoky, oudy Tom Ford men's cologne. I would never give that to my husband. I would hate if he wore that fragrance. I wouldn't give that to my worst enemy. Maybe my worst enemy, if I had one. Then I would give them Rose de Russie. It's just not nice at all. I don't know who this is for, and I know fragrance is personal, so if you love this fragrance, this is not an attack on you, because it might smell really amazing on you, and maybe it just works with your chemistry, and it speaks to you, it connects to you. For me, this is almost like the polar opposite of my fragrance style. So preferences matter. You know, I always like to give you my personal preferences and explain that I like this style of fragrance or I like these notes, not because I want to give you a self-centered review, that's not helpful at all, but because it creates a nice baseline so you know what to expect and you know, okay, I like those notes as well, so maybe I should try this fragrance, or I don't like sweet princessy perfumes, so this isn't going to work for me. I will say, as much as I like Rose Del Malfi, I don't really grab for it or wear that often because there's another fragrance. Carner Barcelona Tardes is another slightly powdery almond fragrance that's a little bit smoother, less harsh. It's a little bit more wearable in my opinion. And when I'm going for that style of fragrance, I will almost always grab Tardes over Rose Del Malfi. So I like it, but I don't really wear it that often. Now this is another one of my favorites. This is from Memo. It's Madurai Eau de Parfum. It smells very exotic. It was inspired by the markets in India. There's a fruitiness to it. Oh, I have a fuzz. A fruitiness, a spiciness. It truly smells like you have been transported to the unknown, some place you've never visited before, and you're just kind of exploring by scent. I have 3 more fragrances that I would consider to be a best of, like a best of the year, and then we're gonna slowly get into some fragrances that are good, but I wouldn't say they're best of the best, but I still want to talk about them. This is another new discovery, another influencer fragrance, Leda, 22 Oris from Leda. This is from Stephanie Leda. It's our first fragrance from her new brand. Beautiful. I absolutely love this fragrance. Spoke to me right away. Instantly knew this was my fragrance style. Now, I haven't had a chance to wear this a lot, so I can't speak to the longevity. This to me smells so heavenly and it's so wearable, versatile. I would put this in the same category as the La Perla Luminous in that it's just pretty. It's just a pretty fragrance that you can grab and wear all the time. I'm planning to wear this a lot. It's kind of seasonless. Killian Princess is another relaunch for 2022. It comes in a new bottle and I absolutely love this fragrance. It has ginger, marshmallow, green tea. It's a little bit sweet and edible, but so different from most gourmands that you're used to smelling. In fact, of all of the fragrances that we've tried so far, I still think this is so unique and yet so pretty and so simple. It feels like this should be duplicated and there should be so many similar fragrances that exist and yet there aren't. The ginger gives it a little bite, but the dry down is so pretty. This was another no-brainer for me. It is my fragrance style. Last but certainly not least, on the best of the best portion of this list is the limited edition Cherry Blossom from Guerlain. This comes out, I believe they launch a new limited edition bottle every single year, so the fragrance might technically not be new, but this was the new 2022 version, and it's a work of art. This was a numbered launch. I believe they only launched somewhere around 2,000 bottles total were ever created, and I bought it. And to this day, it is the most expensive fragrance I think I've ever purchased. It was ridiculously priced, but I do think it's more of a display piece. I love the fragrance. I do have a little atomizer, so I can use the juice, but this bottle will be buried with me. I will probably go to the grave requesting Cherry Blossom because it was so expensive, but also it's so pretty. These little flowers were hand embroidered by a very special artisanal house based in Tokyo, I believe. This was a once in a lifetime type of fragrance purchase. I don't plan to collect the new limited edition bottle every single year. But wow, I mean, it's a centerpiece of my little fragrance display. This is front and center so that everybody can see it. These next fragrances I really like. I'm not sure I would consider them to be best of the best, but I'm happy I have them in my collection. They add something new and different. I think they're really good. I would recommend them, and I wear them, but maybe I don't feel quite as strongly about them as I do the previous fragrances. Still really good. Still really wonderful, and depending on your collection, these might be perfect for you. So again, it all depends, time, place, occasion, what you're in the market for. But Replica Matcha Meditation, this is an amazing fragrance, and it is definitely a unique perfume. It's just not something that I'm going to grab and wear all the time. And I find the Replica fragrances are always really good, very consistently wonderful, but they're usually not what I would consider to be like best of the best, all-time favorites. I've never been blown away, spiritual moment smelling a Replica fragrance. but it's really pretty. A very intense green tea and white chocolate. I love the sweetness from the white chocolate. Really balances out the green tea. But it's so intense. I mean, this smells like tea leaves. This was sent to me complimentary, and they also sent over a candle. Now, I think this fragrance in a candle, that just makes so much more sense to me. As a candle, I think it would be beautiful. As a fragrance to spritz on my body, I'm not sure. I just can't get there. I spent an embarrassing amount of money on this next fragrance. I don't even want to look up the receipt. This is Lavalier from YSL. Because it has fig and rose, I thought this would be right up my alley, and I like it. I really do. I like this fragrance, but this has been sitting on the shelf, and I really just haven't really grabbed for it. I don't think it speaks to me the way I was hoping it would. And they even sent a sample with the box so I could smell the sample before I unwrapped it, and I could return it. But I didn't hate it, so I figured I might as well keep it. I don't know why now. Now I kind of regret it. Not because it's a bad fragrance, but there are just other YSL fragrances that I would have purchased sooner. There's a green citrusy note that is such a turnoff. It's the only thing that I don't really love, and as it dries down, it does get a little bit softer. I was hoping for a delicious rosy fig, something kind of creamy dreamy, and it's really citrus green, sharp, has that bite to it. It's like eating kale. Do you know what I mean? It's like that bitter green harshness. Two designer fragrances that I really like. Again, they're really nice. But now when I look back, I think it's only when I'm looking over all of the new launches and kind of comparing that these don't quite make top of the list. This is Viktor and Rolf, Good Fortune. So unique. I do really like this fragrance, the Jasmine Super Infusion. I mean, it's so cool. I think this is a really interesting fragrance. I know this was kind of loved and hated. It wasn't really well received for a designer fragrance, but I was surprised. I really like this. I'm not sure I would say it's the best designer launch just because there are so many others that I would grab over it. And then My Way Floral. I really like My Way, and I really like My Way Intense. I think they're launching a My Way Le Parfum interpretation as well. The floral is really pretty, but it has a little bit of a green graininess. Actually, these both have kind of like a grainy note in them. I like it, but it's not my all-time favorite. You know, if I were tweaking My Way, I probably would not have gone in this direction, and it's a little bit unexpected. The dry down is insanely beautiful, I will say that. I don't really grab for these as much as some of the other designer launches of 2022. Now we've entered unisex territory, and I've kind of carved out this little group and made it separate from the best of the best launches, only because I just think they're just kind of different. They're fragrances that I might really love, but I would love them more on my husband. I would still say they're some of the best fragrances of 2022, but maybe just not for me. This is the third Floris London fragrance. It's 007, inspired by James Bond. This is, I think, one of the best men's fragrances ever. I hope this is not limited edition. I need to look on their website. This was sent to me complimentary, so I'm not sure if it's exclusive, limited. I hope not, because it is truly like, wow. This is what I want my husband to wear every single day. He's currently wearing Baccarat Rouge 540, the Extrait, which I think smells so heavenly on him. But as soon as he's done with that, I'm going to make him wear this. It's so sexy. It smells like James Bond. A little sweet, a little spicy in there. This is definitely a gentleman's fragrance, so realistically, yes, I know I could wear this if I wanted to, but I wouldn't want to. I want to smell it, but I want to smell it on my husband. Next, we have Of the Immortals. This is another influencer fragrance created by Andrea from Curly Scents. To die for. Delicious. Now, this one I can see myself wearing, absolutely. But I can also see my husband wearing it as well. I would say this is maybe in the same neighborhood as Minuit et Demi, if you're familiar with that fragrance. It's like a delicious caramel vanilla yumminess. It's so good. And I know it's going to be so popular. This fragrance has mass appeal. Sometimes you smell a fragrance and you just know it's undeniably really great. That's how I feel about this. I feel very similar about Roja Manhattan. I look at this bottle with the giant rhinestones. It's all bejeweled with the gorgeous label. I mean, this is one of the most beautiful fragrance bottles in my collection, besides the Guerlain, which was crazy expensive. No, this is stunning to look at. I wish this fragrance really spoke to me. Oh gosh, let me not drop that on my toe. I really like it. I don't know if I can really picture myself wearing it. I think it's kind of deceptive because you look at the bejeweled cap and the rhinestones, but then when you smell it, it smells a little bit more masculine. Not that men can't love rhinestones, of course. Everybody loves rhinestones and sparkly things. But there's a disconnect there between the bottle and the actual fragrance. Kind of sets your expectations up, and then you smell it and you're like, oh, that's not what I expected. You know what? Maybe I just need to wear it. I need to bite the bullet, wear it, and then see how I feel. I might change my mind. Or I might think of the perfect layering combination. Very early on last year, we got 2 new launches from Fragrance de Bois. This is Secret Trist and Cavort. Originally, I thought Secret Trist was my favorite. I thought Cavort leaned a little bit more masculine. I still really like both of them. They're a bit more intense, sexy, date night, a little bit heavier. So not really great Miami fragrances. Like, I don't get as much use out of them as I would like because they are truly special. The last fragrance in this middle category, this middle unisex, I'm not really sure where to put them, how to categorize them in my collection category, is the new launch from Maison Francis Kurkdjian. This is 724. I really like this. I think it is such a pretty fragrance, but it's very clean, fresh, like clean sheets. It's a little bit like, energizing, citrusy, kind of perks you up. It was sent to me complimentary. And if I'm being really honest with myself, I'm not sure I would love it so much for the price because I know these fragrances are very expensive. I'm not sure it moves me as much as it would have to spend that kind of money. So as much as I really like it, I'm happy it's part of my collection. I did not pay a dime for it, so take that into consideration. It's really good, not best of the best. Somewhere in the middle. It's not bad either. I don't know how to describe it. Now we're getting into the fragrances that I don't like, and only a few of these fragrances I would say are bad. So it's really harsh to say worst of 2022, but they're just fragrances that I don't really like. This is kind of in the middle. This is the Amber Chromatique from Maison Crivelli. One of the most interesting, unique fragrances I've ever smelled. And even earlier, I tried to smell it to remind myself what it smelled like, and I don't know. It's not something that I would purchase myself. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's kind of hard to review because there is nothing else that I have ever smelled that I could compare it to. I don't think it has mass appeal. And I really struggle to imagine somebody smelling this and being like, yes, that's going to be my signature scent. You know, I love it. You might like it, but I don't know if anyone's really going to love this fragrance. It really does not smell all that ambery, in my opinion. I like amber fragrances. Like a metallic rainbow made of fruity bubblegum. It's weird. I think that's the best word to describe it. It's a weird fragrance. I appreciate that they created something so different and so unique, it feels impossible to describe. But because it is impossible to describe, how could I recommend this to anybody? Amber Chromatique and these 2 fragrances were sent to me complimentary from Twisted Lily. I always ask to review new fragrances, and they've never pressured me. They always say, you know, give your honest review. We'll send them to you, of course. I do have a code with Twisted Lily, Erin 10, but don't use the code on these particular fragrances. I just think there are better ones out there. So this was a new launch from Mise en Cire, Amber Magique. I love some of their fragrances. Luxury, Treasure, For Your Love is an incredible fragrance from Mise en Cire. So I had pretty high hopes for this. And I said, I really do like ambery fragrances, but this is so intense. That's why I'm talking about these together, because I feel the same way about this. This is from Goutal Paris. It's Folie d'un Soir. It's so heavy ambery. It almost like chokes me. Like I feel like I'm struggling to take a full breath. It's so harsh. There's something that is maybe a little bit too earthy and too intense. Not quite as bad as Rose de Russie, but I have a similar reaction. Like my nose is just like, no, I don't want that. It's not bad, but it's not good either. I mean, that is not a good fragrance in my opinion. I'm not sure I would even give this to my husband. I kind of wished that maybe, I think this launched pretty early in the year, because I remember thinking, I don't love it right now, but maybe when things get a little bit colder, our little cold fronts that we sometimes get in Miami, maybe if it cools down, I'll like it more in the fall, winter months. We actually have had some cold weather lately. But the truth is, it's just not for me. This bottle is so cute with the little pom-pom. It's a shame that I don't really like this. If you love amber fragrances, Amber Nuit from Dior is one of my favorites because it's so wearable. It's kind of the perfect everyday fall fragrance where it's like warm, spicy, ambery, but still light and pretty. There's something in there that I don't love. I think maybe if it had a little vanilla or something that was a little bit creamy and feminine in the dry down, it would balance out a little bit better. I know myself, it's not my style, and it's not something that I would ever grab. These are the last two that were sent to me complimentary from Twisted Lily. We have Juliet Has a Gun, Ego Stratus, and Frustration from Etat Libre d'Orange. I feel like my husband will probably get these. I just don't love them. They're okay. This one is a little bit better. It's a little bit more fresh and clean, but it reminds me more of men's eau de cologne or shampoo. So it's just not for me. I think it's very mediocre, if I'm being honest. I think it's mediocre for everybody. I don't want to sound harsh because I'm sure there are people who like this. I don't want anybody to take this personally, but I just would never want you to spend money on something that's okay, that's good, but it's not amazing. Even if you're spending $10, $20 on a really affordable fragrance, you should feel really good about it. I have 3 other fragrances to talk about. This one will probably be a surprise. This is Jo Malone Sakura Cherry Blossom. For a cherry blossom lover, it's very odd to have a cherry blossom fragrance on my not so love list, and it's Jo Malone. I don't hate this. Again, it's not bad, but I think I tried this early enough in the year that I just hadn't tried enough cherry blossom fragrances, and now that I have my go-to cherry blossom in the Floris London and the Guerlain, I don't really feel a need for this in my collection. It's not bad, it's really nice, but it's a little bit of a soapy cherry blossom, which isn't my favorite. I feel like it's kind of missing something. This is from Fragrance du Bois. I believe they launched this around the same time as Secret Trist and Cavour, I think. This is... oh no, I hope it has the name. Oh. If it wasn't so harsh, I might really like it because it's kind of sweet and powdery as well. Kind of an odd fragrance. Like, I'm not really sure. Producer Michael, that's the name of this. I'm not sure who would wear this. I can't picture it. My tastes are certainly not the end-all be-all, so I always try to think, just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean somebody else might not really love it. This is probably the one exception. I stand by this. It's a terrible fragrance. Do not buy this. It's just not very nice. This is from Sniff. It's called Strawberry Moon. And I was blinded by the name because I thought, oh, Strawberry Moon, the little brunch restaurant spot in Miami, that's what this is named after, is so cute and Instagrammable and everything is pink and it has to smell good. It's going to smell like strawberries. And I doubt I even read the notes, but this has got to be one of the worst fragrances. It's definitely one of the worst launches of 2022. It smells bad. It smells like old pool water after a pool party. And it's really light. It's hard to smell anything at all. Well, I don't want to smell it, but I'm going to spray it. Just in case I'm being dramatic. Okay, maybe I'm being a little dramatic. It's not good. It's not a good fragrance. It doesn't really smell like anything nice. It doesn't smell the way you might expect it to smell. I would say it leans very masculine as well. Don't recommend it. And it's kind of turned me off from smelling anything else from Sniff. I see them a lot now on social media. I didn't before. I thought I was discovering something new whenever I saw this fragrance. I do see them post about other fragrances. So if you are familiar with this brand and if there's anything else that you really love, that you think is amazing, not just okay, but amazing, I would love to hear it because I am willing to give them another chance. But this was so bad for me. I was a little bit heartbroken whenever I first smelled this. I think the last fragrances that I would consider to be worst of the year, and I think I talked about them in my best and worst video halfway through the year. It was the KKW fragrance collaboration with Jeff Leatham. My very first KKW fragrance purchase, and I regretted it. I doubt I'll do it again. They just weren't very nice, and they were still pretty expensive. I understand that maybe especially for celebrity brands, you kind of have to lower expectation. It's a lower price point, but they were still, I want to say, $46 each. That's a lot of money for a fragrance that does not smell nice. The gardenia wasn't good. The caramel orchid or whatever it was not very good. So I think I sold them on eBay so I could get a little bit of my money back. I was so disappointed. Those were terrible, but they still weren't nearly as bad as Strawberry Moon. And that is everything I have to share. We managed to make it through all 41 fragrances. Hopefully this video won't be too long and you don't mind hearing my little rants here and there. Of course, this isn't everything that launched in 2022. There were so many fragrance launches, a couple of Celine fragrance launches that I know I smelled, but I don't remember if I really loved them. So I definitely smelled other fragrances, but nothing that really moved me. I have no problem purchasing a fragrance if it's something that is really, really special, but I don't think there was anything else out there. That's where you come in because I want you to let me know if I missed anything, if there were any new launches in 2022. That's the key. Has to be a new launch from 2022. Anything else that I missed that really spoke to you, that you think is incredible, let me know down below in the comment section. I love reading through your recommendations. If you have any strong thoughts, feelings, opinions about any of these fragrances, drop them down below as well. And that completes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Another year in the books. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Leave me your comments, questions down below. As always, I will be linking everything mentioned. Everything on my face will be listed down in the description box for your convenience. And for more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell.